Welcome everybody to the X Factor podcast. Today we have a great episode for you today. We're going to be getting right into it with some college football talk. I've been gone for a week, was on vacation. Now I'm back, ready to get stuff going, ready to get this good show going here. And like I always say, follow the social media, TikTok, Twitter. They're going to be in the description below. Always look at the description. I always got like extra stuff sitting there for the fans to know that I forget later on in the show. So, there you go. First game we're going to talk about here. We're going to talk about a team that likes to win ugly. Because I love watching ugly games. And if I know a team that likes to win ugly, and it's the Iowa football team. Probably the most ugliest offense I've seen in years. This is probably worse than last year's offense. They go in, they face Wisconsin. They go in and they win 15-8, I believe. Let's read this quarterback stat for you. Deacon Hill, who had to come in for Cade McNamara, who tore his ACL against Michigan State. 6 for 14, 34 yards. That was an in-game, full-game stat line where he played every drive for Iowa. All right, let's look at the receiving. Eric All, 2 catches for 19 yards, who also tore in his ACL. He is out for the year, so they're now down Luke Lachey and Eric All, so awful for that. Nico Reganey, 2 for 13, who has declined this season. Don't know why, don't know how it happened. Caleb Johnson, 1 catch, 4 yards, and Johnny Pascuzzi, 1 catch, 1 yard. And you want to know what Tory Taylor did? 10 punts for 506 yards. Can't tell me that's some ugly stuff right there. But if you look at the rushing stuff, LaShawn Williams, best guy in the offense, with 25 carries, 174 yards, and a touchdown. Caleb Johnson, also one of the better guys in the offense, with 17, 35, and then 1 for 16 for Seth Anderson. This game overall was very ugly to me. Because you sit there and as an Iowa fan, I've been an Iowa fan for about 10 years. I'm 17 now, so about 10 years now. And this is easily one of the worst games I've ever seen. Yeah, Iowa won 15-6, my bad. And the more I keep watching, I don't know how they kept Brian Ferentz after what happened last year. But if this isn't a good instinct where there's like, hey, he needs to get fired, this is like he needs to get fired now. Because this is awful. Now, if we look, Iowa had 9 first downs to Wisconsin's 18. 7 of them were rushing. 2 of them were passing. Wisconsin had 7 rushing touchdowns, or rushing first downs. Wisconsin had 10 passing. 1 of them from penalties. Iowa had 200 yards rushing. Wisconsin had 96, which is weird because Braden Allen, one of the best running backs in the Big Ten. Iowa ran 48 times. Wisconsin ran 28 times. Passing, 37 to 228. 14 attempts to their 50. 6 completions to their 27. And 1 interception for Wisconsin. Average yards per pass. Iowa was at 6.2 to their 8.4. Iowa's total offense was 237 to their 324. Iowa ran 62 plays to their 78 plays. Yards per play, 3.8 to Wisconsin's 44.2 plays. You look at some of these stats and you're like, okay, maybe Wisconsin won this game. Nope, they didn't win. There was a bunch of fumbles in this game. 5 penalties from Iowa, 7 penalties for Wisconsin. Punching yards, they had like 800 in total from between both teams. Third down conversions, Iowa was 4 for 17. They were 2 for 17. Wisconsin was 3 for 4 on fourth down. We were 0 for 1. And somehow Iowa is 6-1 with this team. You sit here and you look at the team. This team has to be like 1-6, maybe 2 and maybe 0-6 right now or 0-7. No, this team is somehow 6-1 with this team. Defense has been carrying this team, and with the amount of people that we lost last year, this team might be better than last year's defense. Even though we still lost Moss and Laporta and Campbell. Offensively, this is the worst offense I have seen in years. Defensively, this might be better than last year's team, if I'm being honest with you. But we're gonna, like I said, we had to start off ugly here. We had to start off with an ugly game from Iowa, and that was just one of their ugly starts. By the way, I think the hype for Colorado should be over now. They lost to Stanford, the 1-4 Stanford team that came in. Not many people thought that they even had a chance with Travis Hunter coming back from injury. Shedeur Sanders threw for 5 touchdowns, 400 yards. Still couldn't get the job done as they choked a 29-0 lead. And we all knew coming into the season, okay, Colorado, they're not gonna be the best team, but they're gonna be pretty decent. After what I've seen from them, they might not even get a bowl spot, a bowl game. They have to face UCLA, Oregon State. They gotta face Utah. They gotta face Washington State. They gotta face Arizona. And that's just the rest of their schedule. And they're coming into a bye. So we're thinking, sitting here looking, maybe Colorado doesn't even get a bowl spot with Shedeur Sanders and Travis Hunter. And I think they're one of the better offenses in college football. But with the people that have been hyping up, acting like they're the best team, I think they're very silent after seeing what's been happening the last couple of weeks. So, and another team I like talking about because of stuff that has happened. It's Alabama. I talk Alabama quite a lot over the last couple weeks since they lost to Texas. And the main reason is because the first week of the year they won, they scored 56 points, looking amazing. Ever since then, it's been very hard to look at this team and say, this team is easily top 15 in the country. I think there's some teams that can come into Alabama and whip them like nothing. Texas A&M almost did. I think the only thing that's good for Alabama as of right now is passing the ball deep. If they need a deep pass down the field or a broken coverage play, Alabama is one of the best teams in college football for that. Because Jalen Milroe could sit there and he could sling it down the field, underthrow it, overthrow it, doesn't matter. One of the receivers is going to be there to catch that ball. But the main problem I had with this particular game they played Arkansas is they were up 24-6, I believe. And offense didn't do a single thing after they scored the 24 points. I believe that was in the third quarter when they got up to that. They scored 21 in the first. So, sit there and say, oh, probably they're going to score more in the second half. No, they only scored 3 points in the second half. And they let KJ Jefferson get up to a point where they could potentially lose the game here. If KJ Jefferson was 14 for 24, 150 yards, 2 touchdowns, there was a parts in the game where he was getting pressured a lot, so he kind of just had to do something with it. Luckily, he didn't throw an interception during this game. They did punt 7 times, so Um, they were able to get 5 sacks on defense, 3 of them coming from Landon Jackson. Um, so that's something there. If you look at Alabama, Jalen Milroe, 10 for 21, 238, 2 touchdowns. Like I said, when it comes to throwing deep, he has people for it. Jermaine Burton, he popped off against Texas A&M about a week or two ago. He comes in here, 2 catches, 60 yards. Kobe Prentice, 2 for 93, a touchdown. And he's been one of their better receivers as this year. Other than that, you have Amari Niblek, who 2 catches for 43. Ja'Cory Brooks, 1 catch for 25. Always, everyone else had 1 catch for less than 10 yards. Like I said, when you need deep plays, Prentice, Burton, Niblek, probably one of the guys you need to look forward to on this team. Defensively, they had 4 sacks. I know Dallas Turner has been one of their best defensive players on this team. Only had a half a sack. Tresman Marshall, Terrion Arnold had a sack. But the main thing is, I'm trying this offense. It's not. This is probably the worst Alabama team I've seen in years. And the weird thing is, it's the worst Alabama team I've seen in years, but yet they're still winning. So, you said that, how is it the worst team, but yet they're still winning? You look at every other Alabama team. You see how they play against teams like Arkansas. You see how they play against teams like Texas A&M or Texas. They usually would blow the teams out of the dirt. They would blow some of these teams out and like, oh, we're going to win this game. Oh, you're done for. First quarter. Or South Florida a couple weeks ago. They won 17-3, I believe. The game was... Alabama should have never been in close for that game. South Florida was whooping their ass all game. The only reason they won is because Roydell Williams. I think the only good thing about this team is rushing. Jace McClellan, Roydell Williams, the 2-back field right there. Jalen Milroe, when he has to, can run. I'm still very worried about this Alabama team, though. Now, we look into another game that happened over the weekend. I'm going to talk about USC last because I got some things I want to talk about for them. But I want to talk about Oregon versus Washington. 2 of the best quarterback matchups I wanted to see this year. I followed both guys. Michael Penix, I followed him through Indiana. I followed Bo Nix through his time in Auburn. Loved both of them. So when they transferred over, I didn't really know how much they were going to play. Last 2 years, they've played absolutely amazing. So, how did it go down in the showdown? I think it went pretty well. This game was easily one of the best games of the year. I'm going to go over Oregon, and then I'm going to go over Washington, get my summary, and we can get through here. Bo Nix, 33 for 44, 337, and 2 touchdowns. Very good game from him. Troy Franklin, easily one of the best receivers on this team, 8 for 154. Tez Johnson, 7 for 71. Easily had some really good, we know who the targets are going to be on this team. But I got to talk about the rushing game here because Bucky Irvin and Jordan James had a touchdown late in the 4th, who legit powered his way 5 yards into the end zone. Absolutely crazy. Then you got Bucky Irving. I am falling in love with this guy more each week that I watch him. He was 22 for 127 and a touchdown. He played very well. Brandon Delores had a sack. That was the only sack of the game for them. And Jahil Florence had an interception, but the only reason that interception happened was because the receiver fell down. the receiver fell down, and Michael Penix threw it. He was doing a curl, and then when he went to go for the curl, he fell. And Michael Penix threw it before he even turned to hit the curl. Well, he hit it once he hit the curl, but fell while that happened. So, that wasn't really on Michael Penix. You're not really going to blame Michael Penix for that one. It didn't really affect anything because Washington still won the game from the missed field goal at the end. Washington, obviously, they did play. Michael Penix, very good. 22 for 37, 304, 4 touchdowns, and then 1 interception, obviously. Rome Oduz, 8 for 128. Jalen Polk, 6 for 118. Touchdown. Rome had 2 touchdowns. Giles Jackson, 6 for 58. And a touchdown. That was the 4 touchdowns. Otherwise, Dylan Johnson and Jack Westover got pretty much 12 yards combined between them two on 3 catches. They only had to punt 3 times, so not really much going there. They only had 1 sack on defense and no interceptions. They had 4 TFLs. Dylan Johnson, 20 carries on 100 yards rushing and a touchdown. So running the ball, they did pretty all right in that spectrum of things. One thing I was very confused at the end was when Oregon went for it on 4th down when they were already up 3, or when they were already up a touchdown. And they had 0 timeouts, so I'm like, why don't you set them back a little bit? Why, I get you're trying to go for it and try to seal the game for everybody, but why are you sitting here trying to be aggressive with it? Put the ball back deep in their side of the field and let them work their way up. If they get in there, okay, that's on the defense. But that 4th down is really what determined what happened, and their kicker missed a field goal at the end. So that also didn't help the situation. So Washington ends up with the win. Overall thoughts, though, nothing really changed for Oregon. I still think Oregon's one of the best teams in college football, even though they're still, even what happened with today. They're going to bounce back. They're going to come back, and they're still going to try for a playoff spot. Washington, I feel like they should be in that playoff category right now. We should talk about, hey, they could make it to the playoffs. And they can win. But Oregon, like I said, I think they're just going to, they're going to come back from this and learn. If you look at overall stat stuff, Oregon, 32 first downs, Washington 24 first downs. 12 of them are rushing to Washington, 6 rushing first downs, 17 passing first downs to their 16. Washington had 16 passing first downs. 3 penalties ended up being first downs for Oregon to Washington's 2. Rushing in total 200 yards for Oregon to 99 for Washington. Oregon ran the ball 40 times. They ran it 23 times. Passing the ball, Oregon was 337 to their 316. They threw it 44 times to their 38 times. Had 10 more incompletions too. Total offense, they had nearly over 100 yards offense more than them. They were 20 plays over than what they did. In my opinion, they were better on 3rd down. They were 10 for 16 to their 5 to 11. 4th down, they were Oregon was 0 for 3 to Washington's 2 for 3. Some of these stats you probably have to say, Oregon, like I said, Oregon probably won. No, that's not the case here. But easily one of the best games of the year in my opinion. But now we got to get into another team that I want to talk about because I talked about I talked about Caleb Williams a couple weeks ago when they played Colorado. And I sat there and said, sometimes he likes to be aggressive with the football and, try to be the superhero of the play. Well, we've seen how that went with USC. or with Notre Dame. Coming in there, Notre Dame, they just come off an ugly loss to Louisville. They're 6-2. USC obviously was 6-0 at the time. And one of the things was, Urban Meyer said it in the pre-show. They need to learn how to tackle, and they didn't tackle at all. Defense was absolutely awful, very ugly. They had no sacks, no turnovers. They only had one TFL. Rushing the rushing game was bad. Marshawn Lloyd was 8 for 46. Austin Jones was 11 for 27. Awful. They only had 103 yards rushing through the entire game. Caleb Williams, 23 for 33, 3 touchdowns, and 199 on yards. A very, very ugly game. The first interception came off when he tried to be the superhero of the play and legit ran and he just freaked out and panicked and threw the ball. It was like one of the first drives when Caleb Williams threw the interception. It was very ugly. And he was trying to do a looked like he was trying to a fake. It was like an option. He should have let the running back go. He should have let the running back go because there was green grass right ahead of him. And the O-line was already crumbling at that spot. The tackles were holding for their life. Like, they were begging for life sentences through the entire game. They were awful. And if you notice on the first passing touchdown, there were 2 holding calls on both tackles. They missed them. Or there would have been if Caleb Williams would have ran out, but he said he went to go in and throw for the touchdown. If he would have ran out to either side, it would have been holding penalties. So that's some good stuff by him, at least. And also in the first quarter, there's about 9:25 left. It was a third down play. Run down the field. There was green grass right on the left side of him, and he didn't even run it. He's like, okay, I'm gonna go pass here. And when I look at Caleb Williams, I see the same thing I seen when I was looking at Malik Willis when he was in college. The only difference is Malik Willis, when the guy was open, he'd just rather run it. Caleb Williams, when he sees a green open grass, he'd try to be the savior pay and try to, pad his passing stats and throw it even though they're not going to get the first down. If Caleb Williams would have ran it, and they would have easily got the first down. Doesn't matter. The offensive line play was awful. Sam Hartman played pretty well for his for at least some standards. He was 13 for 20, 126, 2 touchdowns. The running game was pretty much what got them in through most of this. But I'm sitting here and I look and I watch Caleb Williams every week, and I sit there and I'm thinking, is he ready to go yet? Is he ready to go in the NFL and be that starting guy? If he's going to be in the NFL, let him sit. Let him sit. Let him learn. Let him get poised in the pocket. Because there was one passing touchdown with Sam Hartman where he threw. There was people all around him. And yet, guess what? He didn't run for it. He decided to move a little bit and throw it, no panic. When you see Caleb Williams, he panics. He runs around and tries to be the hero of the play. And guess what happens? We've seen it with Notre Dame. It's going to get picked off. When you go against those lower teams, someone's going to get open. But when you're going against bigger, tougher teams in the NFL, you're either going to get sacked or it's either going to be intercepted. That's what they need to learn. College game is not the same as the pros. That's just one little thing. If Caleb Williams is going to go in the draft next year, you better have a veteran quarterback sitting right there for them to start for the first at least 5 to 6 weeks. But right now, I'm not too big on Caleb Williams. I also said Caleb Williams, he needed to prove more to me to show that he can become one of the better guys in college football. He needed to play against tougher defenses. He played against one of them, and we've seen what happened. So, once again, I was right. He played against one of the better teams in Notre Dame and got squashed. Defense is absolutely awful as well. So defense, that they have their own stuff, but they're fucking as bad as how they played too. It was just very bad game for USC. The last thing I'm going to talk about here today, because I've been debating on this stuff the last couple of weeks. Who should be ranked number 1? Who should be ranked number 1? Georgia, Michigan, no doubt, 2 of the best college teams right now. But me personally, I'm slowly starting to think that maybe Michigan should be considered number 1. Based off what we've seen from both teams. Give me a quick second here. My computer legit just kind of crashed here. Sorry, that was on me. Computer froze. It clicked out of my stuff here. All right. So I'm gonna go over through this, because I wrote down all the, comparing certain stats on everything that we should all be looking at, see what's happening here. Give me a second here. Sorry to not come fully prepared today. Kind of was on a rush. All right. Let's look. All right. So points per game. Georgia scores. So on the first team I'm going to mention is Georgia. The second team will be Michigan. So Georgia averages 41 points a game to Michigan's 39. Georgia has 36 total touchdowns to Michigan's 37. Georgia has 188 first downs to Michigan's 151. First downs by passing. Georgia 109, 79 for Michigan. First downs by running. Georgia at 67, Michigan at 65. First down by flags, 12-7. Third down percentage, same at 55. Fourth down percentage, 80% for Georgia, 70% for Michigan. But Michigan has attempted it 10 times for 7 and it completed for 7. Georgia, 4 for 5. Punts, 14-15. Time of possession, average 33 minutes to Michigan's 31. Carson Beck, 2,147 yards, 73 completion rating, 12 touchdowns, 4 picks. J.J. McCarthy, 1,500 yards, 78 percentage, 14-3. Stats, besides passing, J.J. McCarthy has him. Dejon Edwards, 80 for 460, 5.8 yards per carry, 6 touchdowns. Blake Corum, 96, 546, or 96, 546, 12 touchdowns. The 3 guys behind Edwards have more than 100 yards. One of them being receiver Dillian Bell with 21 carries, 111 yards, 2 touchdowns. Same with Michigan. They have 3 guys with over 100 yards rushing, with J.J. McCarthy having 160 of them. Big. Also looking, the biggest target for Carson Beck, Brock Bowers, 41 catches, 567 yards, 4 touchdowns. Michigan, Roman Wilson with 25 catches, 396, 9 touchdowns. Cornelius Johnson, 19 and 1 touchdown. 19 catches, 1 touchdown for 357. Defense. Georgia has 12 sacks. Michigan has 18 sacks. Turnovers. 9 for Michigan. 4 of them being for Tariq Smith. 12 for Michigan. Both have 9 interceptions. Michigan has 3 fumble recoveries. Georgia has also let up 10 or more points the last 5 games this year. Michigan has only did it once, and that was last week or about a week or 2 ago versus Minnesota. And it was in a 52-10 win. Now we look at the points, and Georgia has scored 287 points. Their defense has let up 98. Okay, you look at Michigan here. 275 points, 47 points let up. They've only... You see the point average, their defense has let up 98 points. Michigan's only let up 47 points. Offensively, they have about 10 points scored more than them. If you look at both, Georgia, they played UT Martin, they won 48-7. They played Ball State, they won 45-3. Then you go on, they play South Carolina where they barely get it with 24-14. They go on, they play UAB 49-21. They go on, they barely snatch off Auburn 27-20. Then they go on, they play Kentucky 51-13. And then go on and 37-20. The rest of their schedule, they got Florida, Missouri, Ole Miss, Tennessee, Georgia Tech. They're going to beat Florida and they're going to beat Georgia Tech. No question about it. Missouri gave them a hard time last year. I expect them to give a more hard time this year, potentially in an upset. Probably a trap game potential. Right there. Ole Miss, I'm not really much sold on Ole Miss because how they play, Well, I'm not really going to try to compare Alabama's defense to Georgia's defense because I think Alabama's defense is just a little better. Ole Miss, they could be a team potential trap game. They could probably win that game. Tennessee, another game. There's 3 games in a row that Georgia could potentially lose. And I feel like the only way they probably lose it is if the offense doesn't perform to their standard where they're scoring over 39 points. Or they lose Brock Bowers. Brock Bowers is the number 1 guy on this team. No one can tell me otherwise. He is Carson Beck's number 1 target. I feel like if they didn't have Brock Bowers, Carson Beck, we wouldn't be talking about him right now. He'd probably be on the bench right now. And yes, they have other talents on that team, but Brock Bowers is just unstoppable. You take out one of quarterback's main targets, they either do one or 2 things. They elevate the players around them, or they play bad. Carson Beck, he probably a guy that could probably play bad. I could be wrong. Now you look it over at Michigan. East Carolina UNLV 33-35-7. Bowling Green 36. Rutgers 31-7. Nebraska 45-7. Minnesota 52-10. Indiana 52-7. Now, their first 3 games of the year, okay, they're about easy. That's for about every team. Every team has about, teams like that, they have easy schedules. They go in, they have had 4 Big Ten matchups. Rutgers, Nebraska, Minnesota, Indiana. And they haven't done nothing. Well, Michigan's just blew them out of the park, pretty much. Now, they go on and play Michigan State next week. They're going to beat them by 60. I am telling you, they're about to beat them by 60 based off how the team is just destructed. Purdue, they're going to beat them by 60. Maryland, they're going to beat them. Well, actually, Maryland, they're going to bring up a tough fight because Maryland gave Ohio State a tough time. But, we always talk about, some of these bigger teams having easier schedules. Georgia, if they want to prove to me that they're the best team, first off, they got to win those 3 ranked games against Ole Miss, Missouri, and Tennessee. They got to prove me that, which I feel like they will. You look at Michigan. There's 2 games that I got to sit there and say, okay, they're 2 teams that, they have to prove that they're a top team. First, Penn State. Penn State, they're ranked 7th. Easily, Penn State's one of the better teams. This is probably Penn State's one of the best years in a couple of years since, when they were ranked high a couple years ago, but Iowa beat them. This is probably one of the better years. They're ranked 7th. If they beat them, consider. If they beat them good, consider that too. Now you look at Ohio State. Ohio State, we know how this rivalry goes. Michigan's won the last 2. And if I'm being honest, I think Ohio State could probably lose this game by 20 points. I don't think Ohio State is enough physical team to come in there. And Ryan Day already called out Lou Holtz for saying it. I'm going to say it too. I don't think that they're tough enough to come in to a team with Michigan and say, whoop your ass, we're going to beat you by 20 and you're going to like it. I can see that with Michigan. Michigan, I could say Michigan, they're going to say that and and I believe it. Ohio State, they could say it, but I feel like they're saying it with a little kid voice. I don't think they're right. I'm not a big believer in Kyle McCord. Even though they have Henderson, even though they got Marvin Harrison Jr., even though they got Ibuka, they have talent around them. They have a pretty good defense. But we've seen how it went last year with Blake Corum. We've seen how it went last year with J.J. McCarthy. They're going to be a team that's going to sit there and they're going to play good very well easy. They're going to play well at the start and probably crumble when they get hit in the face. You get hit in the face, you have to respond. If you're not going to respond, you're not a tough team. We've seen it with a lot of teams, and I'm a Cowboys fan. We've seen it with the 49ers game. They got hit in the face, boom, they didn't respond. That shows that they're not tough enough to go with them. This game, Ohio State has to prove that they're a tough team and go into a big stake game like this where playoffs are probably in contention here. The Big Ten championship's in contention here. And whoever on their side plays in the Big Ten, they're gonna whip whoever's in the Western, whether it's Iowa or Wisconsin or whoever. They're gonna whip Iowa because their offense is trash. So, Wisconsin, they could probably put up a fight but still not win. But like I said, if I'm being honest, Michigan, they have a good reason why they should be ranked number 1 right now. And if I'm being honest, I am a little leaning forward to Michigan being ranked first than I am with Georgia. But we just have to see how that goes. That's all I got for y'all today. Tomorrow or whenever, NFL recap coming through. I'm only gonna talk about a couple of games. Tell me what games next week I should look forward to and what I should talk about next week for college and the NFL. Put those in the comments down below because there's already a couple of games I am looking forward to see. Plus my favorite teams, obviously. Dallas is on a bye week, so don't really get to see them. Iowa, I think they're in a bye week too, so I think I have free football and stuff all week. I can watch whatever. Also, I am currently going through scouting for some college players. I'm going to be talking about some players that I think through the draft that are must-draft guys, and I already have some of them lifted down. Caleb Williams, I already talked about Caleb Williams here, but I could probably say the same thing again. 2 weeks down the line, I'm probably going to say the same thing once the draft heads around. But that's all y'all got for y'all today. Thoughts down below. Follow the Twitter. Follow the TikTok. They'll be in the description below. Stay blessed.